Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Beach Talk Radio. We are live in Fort Myers at the corporate offices of Seagate Development, and we're getting ready to show you the plans for Red Coconut. And our guest for today is Matt Price, who's the CEO. And Matt, before we get into, we're going to have some pictures and we'll take some questions for Matt a little bit later on after we show you the presentation. But why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Seagate and a little bit about yourself?
Well, first of all, how long have we known each other? Like 20 years?
Yeah, we were talking about that before we started.
I know. It's crazy. Ed and I got out of college. I came down and I met Ed, and he was running the gym, and one of the hardest working guys I know. And someone mentioned to me down on the beach one time, how did Ed get down into the beach and everything? And I had mentioned, because the guy's a grinder, man. He works hard and people like him and everything. So
appreciate that.
And I'm watching him do whatever. I don't know if anyone sit on this side of the table, but he's got buttons. He's flicking things. I mean,
I try to confuse people.
I thought I was a tech guy, and man, I couldn't do what he's doing. So anyway, good to see it. So Seagate. So Seagate's 10 years old. It's myself, my father, and then James Nolf is our partner. James like a brother, so it's basically a family company at this point. We've been around for 10 years, but in the market for 20 plus. We do residential, commercial, development, construction. We do property management. We manage about 1.5 million square feet, mostly in Lee County. We have a design company, Theory Design. And then we have a site development company, EarthTech, which I was mentioning. Yep. Not a lot of people knew that, but the beach renourishment, not the one going on now where they're fighting, but the one before. We don't own the trucks, or the truck drivers are not employees. They're but we did do the beach renourishment job down there. We did a lot of Collier counties as well. So
great.
So we touch a lot of different things.
So how did you get connected with Fort Myers Beach?
So James and I were very interested in get down on the beach probably 4 years ago. We looked at the Wyndham, tried to put a deal together on that, never really materialized, but we always saw that Fort Myers Beach eventually would be redeveloped as certain projects hit their useful life cycle. There were a lot of projects on the beach that were getting a little older and tired, and eventually were going to be redeveloped. Obviously, no one knew what was going to happen with the hurricane, which kind of the finger of God came through, and it is what it is. And we all went through that, and it was awful. And at that point, it was okay. Wow. It became more of a community. If we're going to go down there, we want to do the right thing. We want to make sure that we're meeting with the right people. We want to get in with the right scenario. We don't want to be the greedy developers that come in and try to eat up as much ground as possible and promise everything and move on. So we've been very, very strategic in what we're looking at. And one of the reasons that we like the Red Coconut property was because Fran and her family went back and got some entitlements years ago. Those entitlements were part of the village zoning district, which were 15 units an acre. And even though the existing entitlements right now that were built back would be 27 an acre, which would have been
so by right, you can build 27.
Well, it would have been a build back. There might have been a little bit of a battle with that.
Okay.
Would have been interesting. Certainly not something that we wanted to start off our relationships on. And again, we're looking to do other projects down there. We're working with the women's group now, trying to help them get their project out of the ground. We had a meeting with them this morning. Hi, ladies. I know they're watching today. We're meeting with a couple other people down on the beach, but we're a developer contractor. So when we look at a project, we look at the whole budget, and we need to make sure that everything works, not just the construction number. And that a lot of problems people run into is they think it's going to cost this much to build, but they really don't understand that this much is how much the project is. You got impact fees, you have which I know are interesting conversation that are coming up, but you eventually will have impact fees. You have permitting fees, you have carry costs, you have real estate taxes, you have if you're borrowing money, you have interest reserve that you're going to have to put up. So there's all sorts of costs and hidden costs. And then FF&E is a huge cost that we talked with the ladies about this morning, putting furniture in your building, putting IT, putting infrastructure in the building to actually have the building work. So it's a process. And if you don't know that process, it can become overwhelming and can lead to a lot of stop starts. And I think you've seen that in some projects down here where something gets designed, it looks great, and then nothing really happens. And I think part of that is people going through the budgeting process and understanding that they maybe over indulged on their design. So what we try to do is get with people in the beginning and say, okay, what is the budget? And let's work backwards from the budget. And then you have your must-haves, your would be nices, and then in the perfect world, and you kind of work from there.
So on Fort Myers Beach, obviously everybody wants to know about all of the rebuild, but you have certain pieces of property that people care about more than most. And Santini Plaza, the Outrigger, Times Square, and Red Coconut could be on the top of that list. So how did you connect with Fran?
So we worked with Justin Thibault, was a real estate broker down here, got us in touch with Matt Simmons, who was her broker. They were great. They made the introduction. And then with Fran, it was a process. She had a lot of suitors. A lot of people wanted the property. It's the biggest property. It's the only property that goes from the sea to the bay, right? I mean, it's the whole thing. And you get all the way to Matanzas Pass. It's across Estero, so you have a lot of options there, and I think a lot of developers liked it. And we met with Fran multiple times. We eventually put a deal together. I think she liked the vision that we were trying to do. We understood some of the sentimental things that she wanted to do with the Red Coconut, including, I know a lot of your audience has brought that up in the contract. Yes, there are restrictions in the contract for us to make sure that we do the right thing for Red Coconut.
To honor Red Coconut.
To honor, because it was an important landmark on the on the beach, and will always be an important landmark on the beach. And so that was important. Then we went through the zoning verification letter process, which took 8 months, and it was grueling. Fran lost a lot, right? She lost the property at that point. She lost her husband. I mean, it was a really tough time. And we would get together and we would sit together, and there wouldn't be a lot of good news at those meetings because we weren't getting any feedback. So we started getting to know each other, and I learned a lot of the history. And I really, generally, Fran and I really started to hit it off. And so when we had the ups and downs, we were able to laugh things off. And it was interesting. And this is a true story. And we were getting to the end of a due diligence, and it was going to be tough. And we needed another extension because we didn't have it. All the stuff we needed from the beach. And there was a little bit of a push from other people to say, well, why don't we take this out? There's other people that are calling us. And we were talking like we typically do around the table. And there was a picture of me and my daughter, Jane. And I'm wearing a pink outfit. This was when the Barbie movie came out. And I looked ridiculous.
You have pictures of that we can share with people to get to know you better?
I'm sure we can dig one out. I'm sure it'll be posted on here by my wife, who's probably listening. And so Fran looked at that. She thought it was hysterical. And then she came in the next meeting, which was the meeting that we finalized the deal. And she asked to talk to me, and she asked me 3 questions. She said, "Are you going to close?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "You're going to make sure that everything we talked about on the property, the promises you made to the family, you're going to follow through on?" "Yes." And she said, "You got to do one more thing." And I said, "What's that?" She said, "You got to go home and tell your daughter that the reason I'm doing this deal is because of that picture with her." So I had to go home to my 12-year-old daughter and tell her that she's the reason that we put the biggest real estate deal together on Fort Myers Beach. That's a true story.
So you felt like there was more of a personal connection, which is really what Fran wanted, other than a big developer coming in, even if it meant more money.
It was. And my understanding, and she flat out told me she was offered more money. And again, it was an honor for her to, and that put a lot of pressure on the team, because obviously we have partners, and there was a lot of push to, well, maybe we should look at the build back, and maybe we should do this. And I was very clear from the start that we had a vision for this project. We needed to stay within the density that we agreed to, that we were going to do. We were going to pull that density off the beach and kind of work within those parameters that I promised Fran. And we actually met with Fran on this past Friday, and she said some nice things, and she was, want to put words in her mouth. I think she gave some quotes, but she was happy with the way the plan turned out. We followed through on everything that we were supposed to do.
So you showed her the presentation that
we
we're going to
did.
show everybody, and she's on board.
She went through the whole thing. She's on board. I think she's releasing some quotes today,
Good.
and which is great. And I appreciate it. She didn't have to do that. And obviously, everyone out there, I would hope that if people have negative, or issues with the plan, shoot the arrows at me. Fran has nothing to do with it. She's been through a lot, and just because she's supporting the project doesn't matter. So if there are any people that don't like the plan, just keep her. She is the sweetest lady,
Yeah.
and if you knew her, she's something special, and she doesn't deserve that.
But it's impossible to please everybody.
No, I get it,
and it's never going to go back to the way it was. It's never going to be an RV park down there,
No, it isn't.
And nothing close to that is gonna pop up down on the beach. Do you have any idea? There was an RV park right next to Red Coconut.
So that is currently on the market. There was a group that had it under contract. They came out of contract. We've looked at it. We have a little connection with them because they have a crossway through our through our scenario. We're showing a crossway through our plan. We haven't completely finalized with them how to do it. We try to be very neighborly. You'll see there's some frontage on their side of the park. We made that a park for them, so we weren't blocking any of their view of the beach. We try to do everything, but they have a lot of owners over there. I think the voting is 70%. It was a complicated sale. So obviously we'd love to talk to them when they're ready, but it didn't ever feel like they were ready to have those conversations. So
what about the Junkanoo building? Any chance you're going to get that?
I've talked to Terry. I'll just
that doesn't mean anything, but you don't have to say anything.
I've talked to Terry, and
can he pay you to put a fence around it and make it safe?
Well,
you don't need to answer that either.
Obviously, the Junkanoo property makes a lot of sense for us.
Yeah.
If we were going to do something there, it'd probably be a single family home project. But there's a lot of steps to get there that we kind of fit in with what we're doing. So,
all right, here we are, everybody. I'm going to take that banner off there so that I know you've all kind of been waiting for the pictures, so that Matt can kind of take us through the presentation here. So
now this presentation was shorter at the time, and it took me 3.5 hours to go through it with Anita. She told me I was allowed to say that.
She talks a lot, though.
So it did take 3.5 hours. I hope that it's not going to take 3.5 hours to get through this presentation, but this is the site plan, Ed. So
why don't you explain it to everybody?
I want to walk through
all right,
kind of the quadrants of it and why, and then we'll start there. I got some.
Nope, we're good.
Okay,
go ahead.
Awesome. All right. So this is the 2 acres that we have on the beach.
I don't think they'll be able to see the arrow. So
they won't see the arrow. Okay.
Numbers.
So there's 2 acres on the beach there, and then we hit Estero, and then we have I'll call it the next quadrant, and that quadrant goes from Estero to what the town and staff is calling the Denora extension. The Denora extension's the north-south road on the north side of the property. Now, the reason I'm bringing that up is because when we met with staff, that was an absolute must in the project. So we could not move that road. That road, not the north plan north-south, the north-south this way. So
we're looking at number 6 and number
Estero.
5, 6, and 7.
So you're coming up to 9.
9.
So this road right here on 9,
okay,
that goes plan east-west. They're calling that the Denora extension. That extension has to be there, and the reason for that was it was another north-south corridor through the island that they could have bikes and pedestrians and cars go on. So where does that connect? Well, that connects to our next door neighbor, and then eventually connects farther and farther. And again, it wasn't really our. We were just told it was absolutely must have. So when we start putting the blocks together, that line couldn't move. So Estero couldn't move, and that line couldn't move. So now we had.
So number 9 is the corner of Estero and Denora.
No, that's actually Denora and Denora, because this is Denora. It's confusing because
where's Estero?
So
5,
Estero's
7,
right
and 6.
here. Yeah.
Okay.
So 5,
this
6.
is Denora. 9.
This is Denora,
Gotcha.
and then they're calling this the Denora extension going this way. I don't know why.
So that's kind of into
our project.
Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah. And they want that road going all the way through in order for them to move traffic,
all right,
bikes, etc. So that gives us the kind of the where we are. Okay. So what we ended up doing was anything north of that road, we probably can only do single family homes. We did have a request, multiple requests to hook into the Matanzas Pass Park that they have back there. As you can see, we can go back to the other one because it's easier to see. That's this one right here. Again, my eyes are terrible. What's that? Is that
number 9?
Number 9 up in the top right corner.
That's Matanzas Pass Preserve.
That's
Gotcha.
Matanzas Pass Preserve access for the public. So that's a public access point. They're able to go there. They're able to use it. And then continuing down to the south, number 9, there is a bike pedestrian path that walks all the way, plan east-west and then plan north-south down to another 9, which is the park, which is directly located on an estero.
Okay. All right. So
does that make sense?
So
that's view 3. Oh, okay. We're just diving in.
I don't want to go too fast. If you want to explain anything.
So that would be view 3. View 3, where number 3 is on this plan, would be that park.
Okay.
And then going across the street, there's also a beach park. Now there's
okay. So you are going a little too fast. So number 3 is nothing right now.
No,
you're building a park.
Yeah, that's building.
Number 3 is Seagate building a park. Number 1, if you go across the stero,
that's another park.
You're building another park.
We're building another
two
park.
parks.
So that's going to be, and then there would be a third park in the northwest, and then a connection all the way through. So
what kind of park would number 3 be there?
I'll show you some.
Okay,
I'll show
gotcha.
you some
So right now you're building 3 parks.
3 parks, all interconnected with bike paths and.
Now number 9 up at the top of the picture here is a park.
That's
also
another park that
gotcha.
connects to the Matanzas
Nothing
Pass
exists there now,
walkthrough.
and you would build parks. Okay,
Correct.
ready for the next one? Okay,
go ahead. So this is a look through to the beach park. So I mentioned that there's a connection way all the way through. That connection way would be our neighbor's connection way, and then we'd have a beach park next to it with access to the beach for pedestrians. So those pedestrians, it's a public park. In that public park, we've discussed, and we don't have picture of this because Fran's going to approve all this, but we've talked about Tom's bench still is on the site. We've kept it there.
Yeah.
Talking about putting that out there with some of the coconuts, keeping some of the coconuts obviously out there.
So Matt, help me out with this. Now you said your neighbor. I'm looking across at the beach, and you said
so this walkway through here.
Yeah.
It's a little confusing, but that belongs to our neighbor. So our neighbor will have their private walkway through. We're still.
And you're
working
saying
out
the neighbor on the beach side? Who is it?
No. That's Gulf Colony. So the Gulf
Colony owns that piece of property. Oh, they own property on the beach side too.
They do. Just
I didn't know that.
Sliver.
Oh, I see.
Yep. Yeah.
All right.
And so again, that
so
still
this is
needs
a
to
park.
be worked out. No, the one on the left hand side, that's our beach club.
Okay, that would be your beach club, which is a restaurant or what?
So the beach club is a beach club for the members.
Okay.
Okay. So we put a beach club on the beach, and that's why maybe going back to the main thing. So to give the lay of land. So we have a beach club on the beach.
Number 4 is the beach club.
Yeah, that's a members beach club for the members that live in here, and then we're working through the process right now. But the memberships will probably be sold to the public as well.
Okay.
Public. My assumption would be a lot of people on the island would like to be part of a beach club eventually there, and so there would be membership sold to the public as well.
All right, so you're building a beach club, number
on the beach,
4,
and that is 2 stories over parking.
2 stories over parking. Is there a pool there?
There is a pool. Yep.
On the beach side,
There
on the
is.
other side of the building.
So on the other side of the building, right here, and we get there. So this is a pool right here.
I see it.
And
Number
this is the
9. You
beach
can see
club.
number 9 right
And then
there.
this is, coming in, this is their access. And then we have a park all around it for the public.
Okay. So can you give us let me pop back here. I know it's not going to be perfect for everybody to see because we see a bigger picture than you do, but we'll have, I see Trish is on there. Thanks, Trish. We'll have these bigger pictures, and I'll post them. I'll blow them up for the Facebook page. But can you kind of just give us an overview before we go back to the pictures? What are you building?
Sure.
There? Tell us what you're building there, because then we'll be able to.
So we're going to do 2 over parking on the beach club, that beach club, and then we have a pedestrian crossover. Now that pedestrian crossover had people on both sides, people that loved the idea of a crossover, people that hated the idea of the crossover. The feedback I got on the love is it doesn't stop traffic. You're able to move people across back and forth. The people who didn't love the idea because they said most public people on the ground aren't using it, and it clutters the streetscape, meaning that you have to put stairwells, elevator, and you're putting that all on the streetscape, which takes away from the openness of the streetscape. So I go both sides.
Tell you what, you're making Jim Adderhold happy with that.
I've met a lot of different people through this. We've asked a lot of different questions, and we take everybody's comments seriously. So what we ended up doing was a resident walkover, thinking that the residents would walk over back and forth more. And then we didn't have a public access, which when we get to the streetscape, you'll see how open that public access point is. And there's kind of a linear park going up and down both sides of Estero. So we'll get to that picture eventually.
All right, I'm going to try and make it a little bigger for you folks. So okay. So you got a beach club on the beach side. What do you got on the bay side? What are you building on the bay side?
So the bay side, we have the single family homes up top.
How many?
4, which is on plan north right there, right?
4 single family homes.
4 single family
That's
homes.
it.
That's it. Originally, we were looking at maybe doing a couple more villas there. I know some of the other people that have been trying to develop on the island has run into the CL line issues. We had multiple different points on multiple different surveys. We finally got a survey that we think is true, and we ended up losing a couple of units via that. But as again, I promised to keep to the 15 units per acre, and that's what we did. So we ended up knocking that down to 4 units there. Then we have 137 units in, which is what everyone cares about, I'm sure, is the condo buildings there. There's 2 condo buildings right there. There's 137 units in those condo buildings.
How many floors?
Well, it's complicated. So
Okay.
right up against Estero, it's 1.5 and 2 stories. That's where the public restaurant's going to go. That's another thing we'll talk about in the future. Then it jumps up off Estero in the next quadrant to 9 and 10 foot. And then it goes to 14 and 15 foot. These are all over parking calculations.
All right.
So and we have a picture of the height and how it compares to some of the buildings around. But one of the questions that came up from a lot of different people was, how did you get to the heights? And it was, well, how do we fit the number of units? We were doing 15 units an acre. We're not putting any units on the beach. So we took everything off the beach. So where do we put those units? And we start stacking the plans out and looking at it. It's tough to fit that many units on what we're dealing with.
So far we have 4 single family homes, 137 unit condo building, and a beach club.
Correct. So 141 units. That's it.
Okay, that's everything. All right,
that's it. And that ties exactly to our 15 units per acre. Now, again, as I had mentioned before, the existing build back is 27 units an acre. So we're actually decreasing the density of this project compared to what was there.
All right. What are we looking at here?
So this is the streetscape. So this is the streetscape looking north on Estero. This is our building here on this side, our beach club building.
Okay.
And we're looking back towards the property.
Now the walkover is in the picture. Is it 100% guaranteed, or you're not sure yet?
We're working on it. Everyone that I've talked to with the discussion of the walkover seems to like the idea of meeting in the middle. By the way, this building in the background is not ours. That's the Caper building. So again, the height on the beach. That's not our neighbor, but our neighbor's neighbor. So there's
that's the beach Caper.
There. Yep.
We're doing a walk around at that building on Saturday.
So they're 11 stories. So just to give
by comparison,
and they're on the beach.
Right. So
this is the public park. Remember when I said there's a public park on Estero, what that would look like? This is the public park on Estero that's looking back at our beach club on the right. I wanted to make sure that everyone understood the size of the beach club on the beach side is 2 over parking. So the height is low. The other thing we did on the beach club is there's in the existing village entitlements, it was a 50-foot view corridor. So we had to give 50 feet of view of the water. We have 240 on if you add up both sides. So that's almost 5 times the view corridor that would be necessary for us to get this approved.
So public benefit.
Along
50 feet is all you're required, and you're doing 240. So you're doing half and half
basically half
on each side of the beach club.
That's roughly what it comes out.
So if people are driving down Estero Boulevard, the right-hand side where the empty lot is now, where the bays used to be, that people put their RVs, that's where the beach club's going to be. Right in that spot there, on the right-hand side. If you're going south on Estero Boulevard,
on that 2
that's
acres,
where
right. Yep.
And so you go down a little bit past the beach club, and that's where your walkover might be.
Yes, yeah, it would connect to the beach club. It would be a walkover right over the beach club,
And it's going to connect on the other side
to the pool area.
Okay.
Yep, and we'll get a view of that.
All right. We're on number 7. All right.
So this is more of an aerial view of what we're looking at. So the beach club is on your left-hand side here.
Okay.
This is the walkthrough. You can see the significant area you can see over here. The right-hand side, this is the public restaurant. So that was another it was an interesting process. We had a lot of people who really wanted a public restaurant mid-island. Absolutely wanted it. Fran was very excited about it, having people come to a public restaurant and be able to see the water. So that was another check that I needed to hit. The next one was that because of the public restaurant added to the condo building, we ran into FAR issues, because when they're condos, it's just units.
Yeah.
Once you add the restaurant, it becomes a FAR calculation, which complicated things because we needed to make sure that the FAR worked on the project once we added the restaurant there. But the restaurant was super important to most of the people that we've talked to and went. So we ended up getting the restaurant in there. The restaurant's in the project. The restaurant will be in there. It'll be public. Anyone in the public can come to the restaurant. And again, it ended up being one of Fran's favorite things because she was so excited to call some of the people that she had talked to and said, you're going to be able to have beach. You're going to have dinner, and you're going to be able to see the beach at the Red Coconut. So that was
okay. So this is on the bay side,
That's
looking
on the bay
across
side,
at what's this behind the trees here?
So we just put some buildings on here. This is Terry's. This is the Junkanoo piece here. So we just put some buildings there to just show
I got you.
what it could be. But
that building would not block the view of the restaurant.
And I'll show you the view of the restaurant. We'll get to that. This is a street side view of the restaurant. So the restaurant's up above. So just, again, I wanted to get streetscape was another important thing. And I'd heard a lot of, we want to see the architectural feel. We don't want to see a bunch of trees there, but we want shade trees and we want it to look nice. So what I tried to, again, this is a lot more than what typically would be submitted on a development agreement on a site plan with deviations is kind of what we're doing here. But this was
important
people
to see
well, I think the only way we're going to be able to sell this to the public is what they really see and they understand why we did what we did.
The beachy vibe thing is all they talk about.
So this is the restaurant. So this is your view from the restaurant over the beach. It won't be built on, and that's your restaurant, and you're sitting down and you're watching the sunset and you're eating dinner.
How many seats in the restaurant?
Don't know yet. Okay. 6,000 to 8,000 feet. We're still playing with the numbers, but
all right. Let's hit the next one.
So this is the restaurant looking
a lot of greenery,
right.
A lot of landscaping.
So this is actually the pool for the members is on the right hand side here. This is cascading down with some again, we're trying to make the streetscape and the look and the feel of the building. So this is actually from the restaurant. You're looking over, you want to take pictures of, obviously there'll be tables on that side. Pictures
and that's
of
Estero Boulevard.
That's Estero Boulevard right there. This is the walkover from the pool from the members to the beach. I just wanted to give an idea of how big the area is that of a view corridor that would be seen from the public.
Is that person dressed in brown there Jim Adderholt?
You know what? I
don't have to answer that one.
I'm not going to say anything. This is the pool on the beach. It'll be at grade.
Okay.
Because we're not blocking views there, so it'll be at grade.
Big pool, little pool, what kind of size?
Still
pool?
playing with the
early stages for that. Open day passes to the public.
Don't know yet. I mean, the reality is we're gonna put the scope together, but we just don't know yet.
All right. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything from anyone. All right. Number 13.
So this is
sunset view.
So this is the second level of the club, sunset view. The club. Obviously, we'll have a members club, but it could be open, summer, reciprocals, that kind of stuff, weddings, etc.
So this, you're right on the beach here.
Yes.
How did all this fit into the FEMA rules and what you can build there?
Very carefully, Ed. Again,
how close are you to the line?
So we're on our 22nd iteration of this plan.
Get out.
Again, we've met with a lot of people. We've tried to take as much public comment as we could. Plus, we needed to fit. Plus, and again, I know everybody shies away from this, but the project has to be feasible, because you can design the best project in the world, but if you can't build it or you can't get the financing, it'll just sit there. So we needed to make sure that all of it worked together in one. And we tried to hit that sweet spot. And that's kind of what we're going for here.
So what do you think the homes are going to be priced at?
You know what? I wish I had a crystal ball right now. We have very preliminary numbers that we run, but we don't even know how big the units are going to end up being, because right now what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the box in the box to allow us to say, look, this is our vision. This is what we envision this to be. It's going to be really close to this, but we don't know how the stacking is going to work and how the air conditioner is going to go up. And so until I know that,
Gotcha.
but I think I would tell you that it'll be competitive. Obviously, I mean, it'll have to be competitive with the market, and I think people can do the math in their head. I mean, that's kind of where we are. And I have one more picture that you're going to want to show everybody.
All right. Am I coming up on it?
Yeah, just do it. So that's the picture that I think most people are going to want to see. They're going to want to understand how it's going to look, the step back of where we are, where it comes. Again, there's nothing behind us. We got Matanzas Pass behind us. The only thing we're building behind us are our own houses. And then obviously you have Caper here and you have Ocean up here, which is again near Publix, which is the same 15 stories. So, we talk about Mid-Island. There's not a lot of opportunities for height, and this is probably the last one because of all the ground it takes to be able to do, and the public good and the public benefit that we're trying to give back to be able to get it. But that's the
so these are all, this grouping right here are all your buildings.
That's all. That's
so
all
you got
buildings.
4. Is there 4?
No, there's 2. There's
2
one
buildings.
And 2.
Gotcha.
They're just stair stepped.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And those 2 buildings equal 137 units.
137 units.
Any what are you calculating the square feet on the units?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
I mean, probably 3,000-ish, maybe. Some will be smaller, some will be bigger, but
so you're 15 over 2 levels of
2
parking.
levels
So
apart. You're going to have
17.
to park it because again, we have the restaurant. We got, and again, I think it's important when we start talking about height, though, and I've seen it in other, is that it's not just 15 stories. It's 2, and then 9, and then 10, and then 14, and then because that stair stepping is important. I had a meeting with Anita, and we were talking about that, and she said, "Can you build shorter buildings?" And I said, "Sure, I could build you a 12-story building." And she said, "Well, why won't you do that?" And I said, "Because you're not going to like it. It's going to look like a building a couple of buildings down that everybody hates. That's the reason that the town
just a big box.
It's going to be a big box." And so I think one of the things that we try to do is get the architectural elements. And when we originally, again, I told you this is 22, the 22nd iteration. When we originally put the iterations together and we're just putting boxes on boxes, and we showed people those rectangles just for space holders to a person, it was no effing way. No way. When we started showing the architectural feel, the wedding cake design, why we needed to do what we did, et cetera, I think we started to get more of an understanding. And that's where I'm hoping to be able to get to with the public.
So is Anita on board?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. I spent 3.5 hours with her. I poured my heart and soul into it. We believe we did what we needed to do to get to where we needed to get to. I think we have a beautiful project here. I think people are going to look back 10 years from now, like they do at Margaritaville, and go, "Yeah, that was the right idea." We took everything off the beach. We tried to push the height back as far as possible. There's not a lot of projects that can do what we did and they give back as much as we back, because we had 10 acres there. We already had the density. We're not asking for any more density. Everyone else is asking for more density. Believe me, I had a lot of partners ask why we're not. And the reason is I think we can fit within the density requirements and build a project. But in order to do that, we need some deviations. Some of the deviations are positive, like the build 2 line. Right now, I could go pull a development order and build 4 and 3 stories over parking right up against Estero Boulevard on both sides. It would look like a bowling alley. It wouldn't. No one would like that. I've shown that picture. I didn't want to show it to the public because it kind of feels like you're trying to rub everyone's nose in. But the reality of the situation is it wasn't the right project to build on this site. This site is special, and I think people understand that. And it needs to be a special project. And I think you're only going to have a couple of those opportunities. You mentioned a lot of them. There's only a couple opportunities on the island that could be special.
So what is the top of the building? People are going to ask, how high up does that building go? The highest building?
Still doing the math.
Approximately.
I don't know. I mean, we're going to have to do. I mean, we got to talk about ceiling heights because depending on the ceiling heights, and that's something that we're going to be going through with the LPA. And we're going to have a public meeting after this. I think I talked to you about this right before we got on, but our next goal would be to have a public meeting with the public. Again, we met with a lot of people from the public, but we wanted to make sure that we had a plan that we could at least say that we went through with a lot of different people and we were sure of the plan, that then we could take to the public and listen to any of the other concerns that come up with this.
I don't think anybody will have any negative, I shouldn't say that. From my experience on the beach side, everything looks really cool. The question is going to be about that height, and they're going to. Are you allowed to build that high? Is my question. Do you need any variances?
We need a deviation for that, and that's really the deviation that everyone's asking for.
Yeah,
or we're asking for, and the reality of the situation is that there's give and take in everything, and so if that's what everyone wants the beach to look like, which I love it. That's why we designed it that way. You need to put the units somewhere, and you need to be able to make the project viable. And so, again, there's give and take with that. So if you want the beach to be open and you want to have that feel of the beach, then there needs to be a place to put people.
What's the feedback you're getting from the 5 council members you showed it to? Got 3 yeses?
You know what? I don't know, Ed. I honestly don't know. I think it's gonna be important to see what the public thinks of this. There's a reason that we waited as long as we did. There's a reason that we met with as many people as we did. I think it was really important to wait to make sure it was the right time to release this. And I think there has been at least a little bit of a groundswelling of support where before the non-development people were loud and passionate, and the people that didn't want development weren't. And I think part of development and getting things entitled and progress is you got to have some passion for it. You got to care. You got to prove your point. You got to sit down and you got to explain why this is the right vision. And I don't think you saw that. I think you saw a lot of people walking on eggshells, and understandably so. But I think you're starting to get the groundswell of people that are tired of eating out of food trucks every day and and the only way that that's coming back is if projects start moving forward.
So you got Fran to buy into that. How do you, I mean, she's okay with all of that. It's way different than what was on her property beforehand.
Yeah,
so
but you know, an interesting thing about Fran is that she is an unbelievable lady, and she gets it. She understands, and she understood that her ask on the beach side of what she was looking for, there was going to be a trade-off, and she understood it, and that was the trade-off. And that and when we walked through and we sat down and we went through the trade-off and the public benefit and why we did what we did, I think she was okay being behind the project.
So let's kind of go through the public benefit. You got 3 parks that you're throwing into the mix that aren't there now. You have a view corridor that's
5 times the view corridor.
5 times the view corridor.
Public restaurant that is a significant.
You got to walk over.
You got to walk over, which was important. Connection to the Mantanzas Pass, which was super important. And then again for staff, and again it was step 1, but that Denora extension, I would have loved to not have to build that because I could push everything back a little bit farther. And it would have been an easier discussion, Ed.
Yeah.
But that was an absolute must from staff. The other benefits, and again, we have more, pulling the entranceway. If you go to the site plan, just one more, one more down.
Okay.
I'll do it.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
so on the right-hand side along Denora, you'll see a bunch of red triangles there. That's how the owners are going to be getting into the parking garage. We pulled all of that off of Estero. They did not want access off Estero. They didn't want traffic jams, et cetera. We also pulled the entrance to the building significantly off Estero. As you can see, when you pull in, you pull all the way up and around to get to the entrance of the buildings. Again, they didn't want 2 cars stacked and then you're back out on Estero and you're holding up traffic. So keeping that traffic moving was an important part. So we had to design the plan around that. The other interesting thing is originally the Denora extension was supposed to connect back down to Estero. They didn't want that to happen because there was a discussion, a point of we don't want another entrance back onto Estero. People are driving around and coming through the project and coming down. So we cut that off. So now that's only a public access way. When we did the parks, there was a discussion about parking, right? Do we give parking to the public? And what we kept hearing over and over was we want stuff for the residents and the people on the island. And so when I heard from people and they want bike areas, maybe they want to drive a golf cart there, but they don't want places for the people that are coming over for the day,
more traffic,
to drive their car and park at the Red Coconut property and walk to the beach on the public. That was not the intention of the park. So specifically, we kept those parks to where there wasn't a ton of parking. There wasn't this. There'll be bike racks. There'll be places for people that live around there to be, but there's not places to go and drive from Fort Myers or Lehigh and drive over and park your car there and use the parks.
How many employees you think if it gets approved, that you'll bring onto the island?
Oh, I mean, to run these projects, I mean, you're going to have every bit of 100 employees total there running these projects.
What else do you want the community to know about how they can get on board?
I've said this to every single person that I've met with, and I honestly believe it. I'm not asking anyone to agree with the vision we have for the beach. I understand if people have different visions of the beach, but I hope that every one of you can see through the presentation of what we've been through, that we've gone through it the right way. We've listened to the public comment. We've really tried to incorporate those public comments into what we've designed here. And it was a thoughtful way of presenting a project. And I think if every developer, which I think others have as well, and maybe some haven't, but if every developer comes this way, there's no secrets. Everyone I've talked to, I've been very open about what we're trying to accomplish and how. And I think if everybody does it that way, I think you have a good group of developers that are looking to develop the island, and maybe some of them need some pushing in other directions, but I think there could be success. And I don't think there's a lot of big pieces of property for these big, scary, Miami skyscrapers that everyone's trying to talk about. There's just not a lot of that opportunity on the island just because it doesn't exist. So I don't think it's ever going to be that. But there are some places, Mid-Island, South Island, where there's room for a big project like this. And these big projects bring in lots of tax dollars. They bring in lots of people. They bring in lots of workers. They support other projects. And I think that's important.
So what's the next step for you and what do you do next? Do you just submit the application to staff? When are you going to put it in?
So I'd love to submit the applications to staff. Staff has been unbelievable. The issue is we're going through the development agreement process, which was just approved by the council. That's, again, it's not a new process. It was in the statutes. There was no way to do it. Yeah. So where we are right now is there's no submission form and there's no ability to pay a fee because no one knows what the fee is. So as soon as that gets worked out, which I'm sure will get worked out soon, we will be submitting. We plan on doing a public meeting with the public now that everyone's seen the plan. I didn't want to just dump this out on a plan before anyone's seen it. Obviously, Ed, you have the biggest reach on the beach, so figured get it out to everybody, let people digest it. We'll have a public meeting, and then once we submit, staff will give their recommendation, non-recommendation. It'll go to LPA. LPA will vote on it. Then it'll go to council.
In a perfect world?
In a perfect world, I'd love to break ground within a year. Once we get approvals, we can start really designing the building, do our submittals, and get going. It'll take 2 years to build this once we get it. Obviously, we don't live in a perfect world, and things may get held up, but we're willing to run as quickly as possible. I think this project would be successful, and I think this project will lend itself for other developers and other investment to come into the beach if it does get approved.
Have you set a date or a time for the public meeting?
No, not yet. We're looking at, we're trying to garner some interest. So Ed, I'll give you a website you can put up. We're trying to understand how many people would try to want to be there. Obviously, I'm sure you'll do it. You'll do a live cast of that, which is great. Not everyone has to be there, but I don't want to have a room too small, or so we're going to try to get as many people who want to come in person. Obviously, we'll talk. We'll have the discussion. I'll have my smart people. And I got a lot of smart people behind me that do the really.
I need some smart people behind me.
But and then I'll be there to meet people and answer questions.
So it'll be on the beach when
it'll be on the beach. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the game plan. The only reason I want to do it here is that I didn't want to get. I wanted to make sure we got everything out.
It would have been nice to just sit on the red coconut lot, but we would have toasted today. It would have fried the equipment.
And I'm a big guy and I'm a sweater. Years ago, Ed did had me in one of his drill camps or whatever, and I almost died, I think. So he's a lot better shape than I am.
That was when your kids were just being born. Holy, we're all getting old. So we need this project approved before we all die.
You don't seem like you age, and I feel like I age in dog years.
So anything else you want the folks that are watching to know? I know David's going to have it on probably Wink tonight.
No, I'm sure he probably, I think he said 3:00ish. He's going to run that. And then, so there'll be something on Wink tonight. And then we're going to have a website. You can drop your comments in. We're trying to get this as organized as possible. Like I always do, I'll read everything on Beach Talk Radio and all the comments, and maybe cry myself to sleep. I don't know what I'm getting myself into.
I have to be honest with you. I don't know if the ladies are reading the comments, but they've been pretty positive. So
again, I'm just, I understand that this is a big undertaking for the island. And I just hope everyone understands that we're local. James and I are both 43 years old. We're going to be here a long time. We want to be on the beach a long time. We want to develop on the beach a long time. We want to grow our roots there. We already have strong roots in Lee County. I live in Lee County. I don't like Naples. No offense to you Naples people out there, but I'm a Lee County guy through and through. So James lives in Naples. Don't hold against him. But I just, we believe in the island. We believe what it could be. And we also believe that, just like a lot of people, that we don't want overdevelopment here. I don't want to go compete against a bunch of Miami developers who have no idea what they're doing. Right. I think it should be hard to develop here. And I think people should put the time and effort in to understand what people want and work within the rules. And that's what we try to do, Ed.
All right, Matt. Thanks a lot for your time. Awesome. Thank you all for tuning in. And we'll have more on our Facebook page and in our newsletter on Friday. So you all have a great day. And we'll see you Saturday at Margaritaville.
Thanks, guys.